Hello, and welcome to Stage, Screen, and In Between. I'm Helen. Today is a very special day because I've been given special permission to do some behind-the-scenes footage of Eddie Money's new play. It's the story of his life, called 2 Tickets to Paradise. Not only that, but I will be playing Eddie's mother when he was a teenager. My first guest is the young lady that's going to be playing the girl who Eddie married, Lori. And I believe she has some things to tell you.
Hello, my name is Jenna Gittleson. I've been singing and acting since I was about 8 years old. I love it so much. I started with community theater, and then I went up to an off-Broadway show, which was phenomenal. And now I am a sophomore at Five Towns College, and I am a theater arts major.
So tell me, how did you end up with this role, Jenna?
My director at Five Towns actually recommended me for the role, and thankfully I got it. So I'm really thrilled to be part of it.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, what year are you in Five Towns?
I'm a sophomore.
Oh, you're a sophomore. So now, let me ask you, are you a singer as well?
Oh, yes. I've been singing longer than I've been acting. That was originally my first thing. And then my brother was an actor, and of course I wanted to follow in his shoes. So I was like, Mom, let me do something. Let me do acting. And so that's how I got into that.
Oh, so your folks must really be excited that you got this role.
Oh, yes. They're very, very excited. They know who Eddie Money is, and they're like, what? So we need to put posters up. We need to do this, that. They're very excited.
Yes, he's a big celebrity. Yes, I know. So, well, thank you so much for being interviewed, and we're going to have the next victim now.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I have now with me the director of 2 Tickets to Paradise, the amazing John Blenn. John, thank you so much for letting me have this opportunity to interview you a little bit.
Thanks for giving us some time. You know, we got to get the word out about this incredible show that Eddie Money wrote several years back, and only being staged for the second time ever. And here we come, January 2015.
Now, you have the only all-original theater company on Long Island, don't you? You've been in existence, what, 20 years?
Yeah, actually, we started August of 1995, so we're finishing up our 20th year right now. We're about halfway through it, and then obviously begin 21 in August. And when we first started out, we thought we'd do a play and we see where it went. Really had no designs on doing more than one when we started. And 88 productions later, 71 pieces that I've written later, here we are still grinding it out.
Yeah. So now you've also taught at Five Towns College, and you've been in the world of publicity, etc. Tell me some of your background.
I have been the general manager at Westbury Music Fair. I did that for 4 years. I was the editor-in-chief at Good Times Magazine for 14 years. I had my own publication called Long Island Entertainment with a Lie for 7 years. Been a professor at Five Towns College in music, theater, and English for the last 14 years. So yeah, I've done a few things over the years, and it's been a great adventure. I can't complain about any of it.
Tell me about being qualified to do this. Now tell me, you and Eddie have a long time friendship. How did that come about?
I originally met Eddie as a journalist, and we go back pretty close to 20 years, and I had interviewed him for a couple of different publications that I worked for. And then a friend of mine named Gordy McKay, who started out as a writer with me at Good Times in the 80s, approached me and said Eddie had written a musical, and he was looking to do it on Long Island, and would I sit down and talk to him? And I had never done a musical before from a director's point of view, but I felt confident jumping into it the first time in 2009 that the music director was a guy that I had a 30-year experience with, who had played my wedding years ago. So I knew he would handle the musical things that I wasn't necessarily strong on. We had a great choreographer that Eddie knew who was already in place. They had Jesse Kinch ready to go as the lead, who was a 14-year-old prodigy, and he just wound up winning Rising Star in ABC this year. So we had enough things around that I felt confident hitting the ground running that we could do it, and we started working on it in early 2009, and it went up in June of 2009.
Yeah. And now we were supposed to start this in February, and we've just got moved up by 4 weeks. We're going to go up in January. So I think we'll pull it together, don't you?
I have no doubt about it. You know, the one thing I know about Eddie, working with him through the years, is that he's a guy who does not turn back. His favorite battle cry is Donegal, and that is Irish for never surrender, never give up. And I come from the same background he does. He's actually the same age as my own brother. We both are the sons of police officers, so we have a lot of common ground. He grew up in Island Trees in Levittown. I grew up in East Meadow, the town next door. So we had a tremendous amount of things in common, and I've been listening to Eddie since '77 when his first album came out, so I was very familiar with his music. Big fan of him, and it was funny. We were working on the play for about 2 or 3 months when he turned around to me and he goes, "I knew you before this, didn't I?" I go, "Eddie, I've known you for 20 years. I've been in your house and had coffee with your family doing an interview." And it was funny. He got embarrassed because he didn't even realize it was the same guy. But
you know what? It was so meant to be, wasn't it? It was just so meant to be.
I really do feel that way, absolutely. And we got surprised here, as you mentioned. We thought we were going up in February in a different town, and somebody just didn't do the right thing. I'll leave it at that. But we were welcomed with open arms by Malloy College, which has a beautiful space. Unfortunately, they've been there for 4 years, but it looks like it opened up last week. They've taken beautiful care of it. It's actually a better fit space-wise, et cetera, and all the aspects of it are great. Angela Ferboni, who runs the building, couldn't have been more helpful to us to make this work. The only thing is that their only time window was a month earlier than we were scheduled to go, and Eddie's only opportunity after now would be in November, December of next year. So you got to take your opportunities and make them work, and he's determined to get it up again and get it out on the road and eventually to Broadway. So it's got to be now.
Well, congratulations to you, and I'm sure it's going to be spectacular.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thanks.
And now we have Mike Ramo, who actually plays a band member in Eddie's band, the member of Gary. So hi, Mike. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, love to have you on. You're so good. You're such a good drummer.
Thanks. I played drums from 3rd to 8th grade, so it's nice to know that this is coming into play. Yes. No pun intended.
Now, you attended Five Towns College, didn't you?
Yeah, I was a film and television major there. I got my bachelor's in fine arts from there, so I'm a graduate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, you've been with John Blenn's acting group for quite a while, haven't you? You've been in several of his productions, am I correct?
Yeah, I've been with John for about 6 years now. I met him in Five Towns, and yeah, I've been with him all these years. I've done a ton of shows with him. He actually gave me my start as a stage writer, so it was I owe him a lot.
So how do you feel about being in 2 Tickets to Paradise? You must be excited. Now, you were in the first production because this is the second time around for this. Weren't you in the first production?
Yes, I was in the first one, and so this is kind of deja vu for me. The only thing that changed was I'm 5 years older and 30 pounds lighter, so I'm happy to be back doing it again for a second time.
Yeah, and there's a few new members, including me, in the production, and I think it's going to really take off this time. I have a really good vibe about it.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, with a big name like Eddie Money behind it, it's going to go far, and you know, people just gotta look forward to seeing it. And when we perform it next month in January, it's gonna be a rocking time.
Eddie is so fantastic. You know, his first album was double platinum. Can you believe that? He's amazing. I love all his songs.
That's pretty awesome. I don't think I'll ever have a double platinum album in my life. So
never say never. You don't know. Now you know Eddie.
Yes, I do know Eddie. Yeah, I'm really excited to be back doing this, and everyone in the cast is absolutely wonderful to work with. It's been such a joy, and my friend Matt Burns is the lead in it. I've known Matt for years. He's a terrific talent and a wonderful singer. I'm just so blessed to that God gave me the second chance to be in the show.
Oh, good. And I'm really looking forward to working with you. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you, and I'm really looking forward to working with you as well. You have such a beautiful voice when you do the singing part.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
You know, the story about Eddie, he had gotten his leg injured very badly, and there was an orderly in the hospital that really inspired him to continue on and do his physical therapy and everything. And isn't that the role that you play? Introduce yourself and tell us about your character a little bit.
Patren Jones, and I play the orderly.
Yes.
I come in towards the end of the play, and where Eddie Money is kind of down, I guess, to his last, on his luck, I guess. And this is where he first starts to turn his life back around for the better and starts to get back on track.
Right. And you have a very good rapport with him, and he's cool with you, and you're cool with him, and you have a good rapport, and he trusts you, and that's a big help in his recovery, correct?
Yes, yes.
Next up, we have Stacy Ross. So, Stacy, tell me, your role in Two Tickets to Paradise is that of a famous photographer. Am I correct?
Correct. Her name is Lynn Goldsmith, and she was a famous photographer in the 70s when Eddie was sort of coming into himself, and she kind of started to get in with the band and become kind of Eddie's. She followed him around.
And she became like a confidant for him, too. So tell us something about your background. Did you go to school? Do you have training? And
I do. I actually went to the Bow Group. It's a theater company in the city. I began working with MCAP about 2 years ago, and it's a really great family. I love it.
And MCAP stands for Middle Class America Productions. Am I correct?
Correct, yes. And I've been doing short plays with them. I also do extras work and small roles here and there. I did my first off-Broadway play a few months ago.
But this is really, really big time working with Eddie Money. I mean, I'm very excited about it. I'm trying to be low-key about it, but inside I am really like jumping for joy that I landed this gig. Don't you feel that way?
I really do. I'm so excited.
I'm like the cat that swallowed the mouse. I'm like, oh, yeah.
I can't wait. I couldn't be more excited about this show.
And I just love everybody in this production. They're so nice. We all get along so well. Don't you think that it's a good mix?
I do. We're like a family. We've become so close, and it's going to be great. It's going to be really great.
And Eddie is such a superstar, and yet he's so down to earth and approachable and everything. You know, it's going to be a great ride.
It really is, and I'm ready to roll with it. I'm ready to rock and roll with it. So
I'm going to let you go because we're rehearsing right now, so I don't want to take up all your time. Thanks for talking to me, Stacy.
Thank you for having me.
Right now we have Vince, who's playing the role of Bill Graham. Vince, tell me more about yourself.
Hello, Helen. How are you?
I'm great.
Great. Yeah, my name is Vincent Colon. I first got into this at Nassau Community College. I believe you just interviewed the actress who's playing Lynn Goldsmith, right? Yeah, she was an alumni of Nassau Community too. And then I went to SUNY Oswego, where I got into drama and poetry. And then I came home. I met John a couple years ago. And the character I'm playing is the legendary Bill Graham from the Fillmore East and the Fillmore West.
And he's the one that gave Eddie his big break with the record deal, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. When Eddie came to California, he met Bill Graham. And with Bill Graham and Wolfman Jack, Eddie was well on his way. So Bill Graham used to hold a bunch of concerts called the Bill Graham Concert Series at the Fillmore West, 1969, 1970, 1971. And then it closed. And then after that, he did his Bill Graham Concert Series well into the 80s. Unfortunately, he died in 1991 in a horrible helicopter accident.
But you know what Bill Graham used to say about Eddie, that not only was he had the whole package, that Eddie was not only a singer, a songwriter, a musician, but he was also a natural-born entertainer. And that's what gave Eddie the whole package. And Bill really just loved him.
Well, Bill knew him. I mean, if he didn't, he was Carlos Santana, Jefferson Airplane, The Grateful Dead. And he had an eye for talent. And if you saw it in Eddie, it must have been there.
Well, we know it was there. All his hits, right?
Yes.
Well, thank you for talking to me, Vince. You better get out there to rehearsal before I'm in trouble for stealing you away.
Thank you.
You're welcome, baby.
Is that right?
Great. Very good. You want to be my victim? You want to be my victim? Sure. Come on. Now we have the man of the hour.
How are we?
We have the wonderful, wonderful Eddie Money right here in person, and we're doing the story of your life. How does that feel for you to be actually portraying and living out the story of your life? How does that feel?
Well, it was very interesting life, really, coming from the police department. I was in a rock band in high school, and the bands wanted to stay together. And they moved out to California, and I couldn't really see myself in a police uniform for 20 years of my life, like my dad. So I moved out to California, and it's a very interesting story. It's basically a true story. And I really got the whole idea when I saw Jersey Boys, because the camaraderie that the band had, the Four Seasons had, was a closely knit band. I felt the same way about the Grapes of Wrath. And they were really a great, interesting bunch of guys.
So that was the name of the band, was the Grapes of Wrath was your band?
Yeah, it was the Grapes of Wrath. I named the band off that John Steinbecker novel. Okay. I was an English major in high school. But I thought the play really worked well. We did it at Dix Hills Performing Arts Center for a couple of weeks, and it went over really well. And I wanted to come back and redo it and, tighten it up a little bit, Yeah. You always want to make things get better. That's what life.
Well, you know what? You made your dream come true. You really took a shot. You went for it. And I believe your mother was in favor of you fulfilling your dream, but she had to try to make your father happy, and your father wanted you to be a police officer. So I give you credit for actually going and doing that. And you know what really touched me? Was how much you loved your family, how torn you were. And I mentioned that earlier when I spoke to someone, that it really bothered you that your mother was upset and you were disappointing your father, and you loved your little sisters, and it was very difficult for you to do that, but you did.
Well, I was very close to the family. I was very close to my sisters, and my brother was in Vietnam at the time. And my father, he only wanted the best for me. And he thought being a New York City policeman would be good because his grandfather was a cop. And my brother actually retired as a deputy inspector on the police department. And he just couldn't understand why the job wasn't for me. He just didn't think there was really any future in rock and roll at all. But then I went out to California, and I got signed at amateur night. Can you believe that? At Winterland on a really rainy Tuesday night. I told all my friends to get up close, so it looks like the place was full. And we had written Baby Hold On and Two Tickets to Paradise and Everybody Rock and Roller Place, and we wound up getting a deal with the legendary Bill Graham, and we were signed to Columbia Records. And next thing I know, I was on Saturday Night Live and Midnight Special, and working with the Rolling Stones and the Who and Fleetwood Mac and Steve Miller, and my career really took off.
It's unbelievable. Let me ask you, what did it feel like the first time you heard your song come over the radio?
Well, I tell you, when I heard the first song I heard on there, I was driving a 62 yellow Studebaker Lark. And in those days, there was only AM radio. There was no FM radio. It was AM radio. So if you wanted to get on the radio and be a big star on the radio, you had to get on AM radio. And I remember Baby Hold On being on AM radio on KFRC in San Francisco. And I called my mother up, had to get a bunch of quarters, of course, in those days I used about $4.50 in quarters, and I told my mother, I can't believe it, Mom, Baby Hold On is on AM radio, and she said to me, I told you not to call me on Mahjong night.
Well, Mahjong is an addiction, so I can understand that. But let me ask you, that song that I'm going to sing, I'll Always Want the World for You, you wrote that, didn't you?
Yeah, I wrote that. It's very much the song that my mother sings to me because she loved me very much, and she knew how torn up I was that leaving for California and how much I was going to miss everybody. But I didn't want to stay in the police department. I wanted to grow my hair long like the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, and I was really torn on because I really liked the guys in the police department. I had a great job. I was typing roll calls, so I was working 8 to 4s. I wasn't really working around the clock, and I thought a lot of the cops were really a bunch of really great guys too, but
you know what's amazing? You really have the whole story of your life in that song. How your father was, how your mother felt, how the family felt. The whole thing is right there in that song, and how your mother felt about you. Well, so that it's very touching.
I was very lucky to have at least enough talent to come across with those songs. When I was a little kid, my parents used to go see Carousel and Oklahoma and Damn Yankees and all those great Broadway productions. And they'd come home, and I'd act out a lot of these plays with my three sisters. So I was really into Broadway early in my life when I was 11 or 12 years old. And songs like I'll Only Want the World for You and No More Goodbyes and This Train Don't Stop Here Anymore, California Here I Come, I wouldn't really call those rock and roll songs. They're more like very Roger and Hammerstein-ish. You know, I mean, they're like really Broadway songs. I mean, it's not easy to write rock and roll hits, and I've had 14 songs in the top 100.
I know. I was saying before, you had your first album was double platinum. Who does that? That was fabulous. And then you were Grammy nominated, right? And you did a duet also with
Ronnie Spector. She was great too. Yeah. I've been nominated for a lot of Grammys, but I'm always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
You're my bride. But listen, you've also been in the video games. Your music's been used in that.
Well, yeah, they used me on what is Grand Theft Auto. I'm in that, and I'm in Guitar Heroes. Right. So we got all these young kids learning how to play shaking and all these great guitar solos, and it's really amazing how I never knew that I was going to get into Grand Theft Auto or the Car Heroes because I don't play any of the games. But
well, I saw you in Eisenhower Park in the summer, and you just packed them in. There were thousands of people there, and you were fantastic. I mean, your voice is great. You're a fabulous performer. Everybody was really rooting you on. And you know, another thing that I loved about it, you had your daughter Jessie there singing with the band, and your son was in the band too. What's the name of that band?
They got that Des Money and the Phase. My son, if you go to Des Money Music, he's very talented.
They're so good. They're like the new sound. Yeah. It's a newer sound. Yeah. They're really hip looking, and I really love that. I said, here is Eddie Money, and his children are in the music business, and the legacy carries on. Right. And if they aren't the nicest kids,
they're very good kids, of course,
and so talented.
I wanted them to be doctors, maybe CPAs or dentists, but they. Like fools, they followed him into my footsteps. But you know,
now you know what your father went through.
Oh my God Almighty! But yeah, my daughter's very talented, and the kid's very talented, and I have my son opening me up all over the country. Then I have another son that's into dubstepping. I don't know if you know what that is. No. That's dubstepping is it's electronic music, and my middle son is really very much into that. And of course, my daughter could have made it 3 or 4 years ago, but she just she didn't care, you know.
Yeah, well, they got to do it when they're ready. But do they ask for your advice? And if you give advice, do they listen? I want to know.
Well, I don't know if they ask my advice or not, but I'm always going to give it. And my wife would say to me, leave the kids alone. What are you, Joe Jackson? Leave the kids. What are you, Joe Jackson? Leave the kids alone.
No. Giving a little advice doesn't make you that, but you can't help it. You love your kids, and you know what? There's a saying: you can't put older heads on younger shoulders. Right. And you know, what are you going to do? But you can't hold back what you want to say because you know better. You know, but they were adorable and talented and great, really great.
You liked them too, you know.
Oh, I did.
You know, which is really great too, which is amazing. Well, you know, it's great to be back in New York. I mean, I'm staying at I should be staying at my. I have an apartment on Central Park South and 58th Street. Lady Gaga lives in my building. So does Paul Williams. But when I come to New York, I come out to Long Island, which is where I'm from.
Yeah,
you know.
Because weren't you from Plain Edge? Was that correct?
Yeah. I mean, I stay in my sister's basement. I can tell who comes from the door. I recognize the shoes. But, you know, I'm not on New York.
What, through the basement window?
You know, everybody in Long Island hates, you know, your parents, they hate to go into the city. And everybody that's in the city hate to go to Long Island. It's like two different breeds of people.
Isn't it funny? And it's only like 30 miles.
I know, it's insane, really. I hate the city. I hate Long Island, you know.
You know, and you get on the railroad from here, and it's, 30 minutes? It is nothing. You could take a nap, you know?
I know, yeah. I didn't miss that Long Island Railroad. I rode it for years when I was on the police department. You know.
Do you have any regrets? You don't have any regrets that you didn't do the police department. How could you? Look how your career skyrocketed. Thank goodness. You listened to the inner voice, didn't you? You must have had an inner voice telling you to do it, didn't you?
Well, I can remember being really tired before I played the Madison Square Garden. I think the last time with Cyndi Lauper. I've already done it with Santana too. And my father would say to me, just think, look at how tired you are. You could be retired. He never got over the fact that I quit the police department. And here I was playing Madison Square Garden, selling 30 million records, and he said to me, why did you quit the police department?
Well, he's old school. And you know what he figures? You could have retired in 20 years and done it then.
Right. Yeah, it never works like that, though, you know. It doesn't really.
You hit it at the right time, and you're terrifically talented, and you deserve everything that's coming to you. And I know that 2 Tickets to Paradise is going to be fabulous. Your story is so interesting. You know, people don't know your story, and they need to hear it. And you've come full circle again.
Well, I have to. I mean, people, you know, when I was making a lot of money, you got to remember I was making $1,000 a minute for a 75-minute show. But then I started drinking a lot of vodka and, doing a bunch of drugs I shouldn't have been done. And then I had that really bad overdose where I killed the sciatic nerve in my left leg, and I couldn't really walk for like 8 or 9 months.
And didn't they say that you might never walk at that time?
But then I came back and I did a lot of therapy, and it was really great. And I thank God Almighty that, I got everything back. But it took me a long time to get and then we made that record, my No Control album, which was my biggest album, So God works in mysterious ways.
Yes, he does. And you're not done yet, so I'm sure you have wonderful things to do. You're here for a reason, honey.
Thank you so much. I mean, I tell everybody I got 2 tickets to Paradise, but I'm taking everybody. Then I quit drinking.
You better get a couple of 100,000 tickets to Paradise, because everybody's trying to latch onto his coattails because he's going places.
Thank you so much. And then I quit drinking 5 years ago. I feel like going live from Betty Ford. It's the Eddie Money Show. But, I love my sobriety, and the kids are doing great. And, I got a lot to be thankful for. Thank you so much.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for letting me talk to you. And I have to get out there now and sing my song.
I never have a hard time talking to pretty blondes. I married one.
I know you did, Lori. I know. And she's a doll from what I hear. And you have 5 wonderful children, correct?
Of course, they're not children anymore. They're all in their 20s, but everybody's still living home.
Well, they're still your children. They'll always be your babies. You know that.
The kids never move out. I mean, I left home when I was 19 to now. My 29-year-old's, and he's going to college, and he's still at the house. So what are you going to do?
I know. Well,
that's
what
where
it is.
they're at, though. I'd rather know where they're at.
Exactly. And this way you can eavesdrop on what they're doing musically and push them this way and push them that way if you can, right? Help them out a little bit.
They never listen to their dad, that. But luckily enough, they're all in the right direction, and they all have very promising careers. We'll see what happens.
Well, they are, because I saw them and I said, isn't this adorable? It's fantastic. The father is a superstar, and he has these 2 very clean-cut, very new wave children in this fantastic band. Love the sound, and you're doing all good things, and all my best to you.
Well, I wish I can get the kids to mow the lawn. I'm getting a little older doing it myself, They're all too busy.
Somehow it'll get cut. Thanks, Eddie.
Thanks, baby.
And next up we have Matt Burns, who plays Eddie. Eddie, you do such a great job as Eddie. Unbelievable.
Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Yes.
Fabulous. Now tell me, where were you trained?
Oh, well, I went to Five Towns College over in Dix Hills, Long Island. I got my BFA, Bachelor of Fine Arts, Musical Theater. And then after I graduated, I did a contract on Disney Cruise Lines, and I worked 9 months on that. I also did a tour of Shrek the Musical.
Because you're not only a fabulous singer, but you're a great actor. I mean, you really take your time, and everything is, really perfect. I love working with you. You're fantastic.
I love working with you too, and thank you for the compliment. And you're not so bad yourself. Thank you.
Okay, now let me ask you, how did you end up getting this gig?
Well, actually, what happened was, John Blenn, who's directing the show, I knew him back from school, Five Towns, and I heard about the audition. I just went to it and did my best, and that's pretty much how it worked out. Yeah.
And isn't this exciting, though, to actually be working with Eddie Money? And how do you feel? I mean, you're playing Eddie Money. That's phenomenal.
It really is an amazing thing, and I love being able to work with Eddie Money. He's a great guy. He's such a seasoned performer, and he's one of the hardest working performers in the business. I think actually he really knows a lot, and I love being able to work with him and be him and sing his songs.
And his music is so cool. I mean, his songs are just so cool. They're great.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, because it's wonderful. It's wonderful, positive vibes. Great, a lot of powerful, stuff in there. It just really is just good just to go up on stage and rock out. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
It is. So you have to come and see the show. 2 tickets to Paradise, and watch us all rock out. Peace.
Peace.